Okay. Good afternoon, members. Sorry to interrupt. Welcome to this meeting of the Hampstead, Heath, Highgate Wood and Queen's Park Committee. As you are aware, the public element of this meeting is being live streamed and those participating in the meeting have given consent to their inclusion. The recording will be available on the City Corporation's YouTube channel following the meeting, and it shall be retained for up to 1 civic year. Whilst we endeavour to live stream all our public meetings, technical difficulties may sometimes prevent live broadcast. In these instances, we aim to upload a recording after the end of the meeting. All personal data will be processed in accordance with the Data Protection Act 2018, and for any further information on that, please feel free to contact us. Before I proceed, would the Chairman like to make some opening remarks?
There it is, comes. So good afternoon. Thank you, Town Clerk. My name is Alderman Gregory Jones. I have been away from chairing these meetings physically, but doing work as chair during my office as sheriff. It is a joy to be back on the committee, but it is with some regret that I have to announce and pass on condolences from the committee to the family of Matthew Frith and the London Wildlife Trust. It was great loss, unexpected. I know Emily Brennan and some members of the Hampstead Heath Consultative Committee attended the memorial service for Mr. Frith, and our thoughts go with his family. A nomination has been requested for the London Wildlife Trust to fill the vacancy, and in due course that nomination will come to this committee. But if we can just spare, I won't ask for a minute's silence or anything, but just a moment of reflection for the life of Matthew Frith and his contribution, particularly to the work of this committee. On, I think, a happier note, I'd like to pass a vote of thanks on my behalf for the Deputy Chair, William Upton. We swapped positions last March, but because of my Shreveport duties, William has been taking a lot of the heavy lifting as acting chair. But it's great delight that I'm available to present to William the vote of thanks that I think it was given by Wendy Mead. Yeah. The vote of thanks, and it's in all its technical glory, and it's with a great delight to present it to you.
You're working to that.
Yeah, so it is quite beautiful. And you're not allowed to take it home because we don't trust you, but no, yeah. Well done. And thank you so much, William. And I hope that you'll continue as Deputy Chair.
Thank you.
So we've had apologies from Deputy Timothy Butcher, who might be attending by remotely if he can, but I don't see his name up there. He sends his apologies. Are there any other apologies of which we're being notified?
Sorry, Chairman. Councillor Arjun Mitra has also sent his apologies.
No further apologies. Item 2, members' declaration under the Code of Conduct in respect of items on this agenda. Are there any declarations to be made? Can't see any, and looking remotely, I don't see any remotely. Can we then turn to the minutes, the draft minutes of the Hampstead Heath, Highgate Wood and Queen's Park Committee can be found if you've got your members pack up between pages 7 and 20. Are there any, before we go to agree, Wendy?
Sorry about that. That might have been missed an error. I will note that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other points on the minutes? That being so, can we agree the meetings? I won't vote. I wasn't there, so I can't offer a view, but agreed. Good. Then dealing with the draft minutes of the consultative committee, which are pages 21 to 34. Again, I'm not going to participate in that, but any comments, please? William.
Yes, probably there's one issue I ought to raise, and it is sort of more, I suppose, procedural matter. It's that, as you'll be aware, that we've been having the consultation committee meetings in the Guildhall. They have rather requested that we could return to previous procedures that we had where they were meeting near the Heath. And certainly pre-COVID, that was standard. Post-COVID, we tried to use a local venue, which technically let us down on having hybrid meetings. I did ask specifically whether we could try and use the staff yard room. I know that's been investigated, but there is still an outstanding request for them to have at least one meeting a year up in the Heath, and it kind of makes sense. But it's something that I feel is still unresolved. We seem to have done an assessment of how convenient it is for us, but not for the members of the committee. And I would like that to be properly investigated, but it might be we end up back where we started, but it is important to try and meet near the Heath, and certainly for the local accountability. But as I say, I know it's been looked at. I know there is a preliminary answer saying, sorry, we can't do it, but it's not beyond the wit to do so. It does seem apparently beyond the budget, which again, one has to question. So I do need to raise that because it's a serious concern of this consultation committee, which I've been chairing, and it's still not properly answered.
So I think that's technically not a matter on the minutes, but another. No. But I think we can. You've raised it as a proper issue to raise, and I think it's probably any other business. But since we've raised it now, could I just ask officers to consider that and come back? Yes.
Right, Chair, I was just going to say, happy to take that away. I know the town clerk's team are looking into this, but we will come back to you and the deputy chair with a further update once we've had a shift.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. So subject to that, yes. I don't know the answer. I'm getting people shaking their heads, including the ex-chair.
Sorry.
But I don't know. I mean, views may differ on whether we should have it at the Guildhall or not. I'm not going to say anything at the moment, but views may differ. Katrina, your ex-chair.
Karina, thanks, Chair.
Karina, sorry.
Just happy to clarify. Yes, all members were invited on the walks, but not the committee itself. We normally nominated, I can't remember if it was one or two representatives from this committee to the consultative committee to attend the meetings. But yes, the walks, we all were invited. Yeah. Yes.
That's my recollection, Karina. I can remember when I was first on the committee, we would have elections to nominate to the various consultation committees. So I think that deals with that point. Are we happy then to approve those minutes? Okay. C, we've got the minutes of the Hampstead Health, Sports and Wellbeing Forum 35 to 40. This is to, again, in both cases, sorry, it's in these cases, it's simply to note the minutes because they're not minutes of our meeting. So can we have they're duly noted? Any points arising out of anyone wishes to raise? No. So can we go to item 4, and that is the appointment of a member of English Heritage. We have the report of the town clerk, and the Hampstead Heath Consultative Committee indicated their support for this appointment. Does anyone want to say anything, or we can just agree? Yes.
I mean, I've got nothing really in a sense to say, but normally we might have had a bit more about the person, just briefly about their background and their skill set. I mean, I guess we can't refuse him, and I'm not suggesting we should.
No.
It would be quite nice maybe when he comes that he could actually just give us a short CV about it, or a comment when he arrives, if that's okay.
I think that's a good point. Given the position, I mean, we could, but we can't really refuse. But it would be useful if we could, town clerk, make a note to make a request if we could, prior to the next meeting, have a short biog or introduction, and also you know how they see the role. Good. Item 5 is Bill, Assistant Director's Report, Hampstead Heath, and references that as pages 43 to 78. Bill.
Thank you, Chairman. As you know, the report is for information, but there were a few items that I wanted to specifically call to members' attention. First and foremost, we are coming to the end of the busiest part of the year. It's never not busy in the open spaces, but the end of the busiest part of the year. And I just wanted to acknowledge the hard work of the team that looks over our Hampstead Heath, Highgate Wood, and Queen's Park. It's an extraordinarily complex task, and I think they do a really good job making sure that it's beautiful and accessible and welcoming and safe for the millions of people that we welcome every year. So I just wanted to acknowledge the hard work of our team and what was another very busy year this year. In addition to that, the London in Bloom Awards were given out yesterday, and I'm very pleased to report to the committee that North London Open Spaces received 5 gold medals, 4 of them that are under the purview of this committee. And just to itemize those briefly, Golders Hill Park won gold for the large park over 25 acres category. The Hill Garden won gold in the small park category. The Pergola won gold in the walled garden of the year. And Queen's Park was given gold and best in category for the large park over 25 acres. And again, I think just a great reflection of the support we get from this committee and also the hard work of our officers. So we were very pleased to represent the Queen's Park charity, Highgate Wood charity, Hampstead Heath charity, and of course the city corporation in those awards.
Excellent news. Well, Joe, we can get that in some of our publicity, I hope.
In addition, Chairman, some members may have seen that the ladies' pond unfortunately has been closed for a couple of weeks due to a blue-green algae outbreak. Now, these do happen. We do everything we can to avoid them. We do have aerators and diffusers in place, and we're reinvesting in that infrastructure, but they do happen, and this was exacerbated by the low rainfall and the lack of flowing water. But we're very pleased to report that we've gone through all the necessary protocols, we've done testing, and it did reopen today. During the closure period, yesterday, and during the closure period, tickets were, of course, cross-honored at other facilities to make sure that people could continue to use the heat, and the rain that we've had recently will help flush the system. So it does happen, but we worked very hard to get the ladies' pond reopened as quickly as we could. Related to the ponds, as members knows, that there is an ongoing consultation on the access arrangements at the ponds, and that consultation will close on November 25th. So it's ongoing. And there will be a further report on that matter once the consultation is closed.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions arising out of the report we're noting there and oral supplementary? Wendy and Will. Oh, Wendy, Jason, Will. Oh, yeah.
Could I just
Everyone's hands.
could we just record the congratulations on page 59 to the zoo apprentice who's passed his level 2 with distinction, please?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Can we? Are we allowed to know the name? Is it appropriate in public? I don't know.
I think we'll pass it on
Yeah,
anonymously.
okay. Yeah. Jason?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask about the pergola, and thank you for the sort of very helpful update. I'm being asked about by people sort of who live locally when the fundraising campaign will begin to sort of do more extensive work on the pergola. I just was wondering, I know we've talked about that at other meetings, if there's any.
So Jason, we are going to be dealing later, aren't we, with this item in
I can give a
closed
general
session,
update
but we can
on
do
Monday.
we can deal with partly now, but we are going to come on to it. I think.
Yeah, I was want to ask high level, sort of in public, really, just to give an idea.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and I see that I did had it pulled out for specific mention and skipped it, so thank you for the reminder. We are preparing a submission to the National Lottery Heritage Fund. As you know, we've taken specialist advice on the expression of interest. We, of course, want to put the best foot forward at every single step. In addition, our head of development and partnerships joined about a month ago and is already working on that, but also thinking about a larger fundraising effort. So the thought process has begun. We're not launching anything yet. It's a very significant undertaking. We're also seeking some clarity internally if we can get any support from the corporation through a capital bid. So more information to come, but it is very much being thought about and prioritized. And we do anticipate that there will be a larger fundraising effort and an update to come.
Yeah, I just wondering if there's any idea on timetable on that fundraising.
I don't have an exact timetable. Next time we meet, I will have something, but what we want to do is make sure that plan for a robust, proper process rather than jump into it unprepared.
Yes.
A brief point, Chair. Just to thank staff again and Superintendent for all the support on the two big events we do on the Heath. One is the kite flying and the other is the Natural Aspect Summer Concert. And thank you very much for all the support. And it's a good way of getting over messages to the public. Enjoy the Heath, but look after the Heath.
Thank you very much, John. Well,
yeah, yes, as Deputy Chairman, a couple of things. The paragraph 8, the planning application for the works the model baiting pond. Is there an update on that? Because it suggests that it might be granted. And partly, how long is it? Why is it taking so long?
Thank you, Chairman. I will ask our head of conservation to give a little bit more detail, but we did receive planning permission, I believe, last week from Camden Council. We have liaised closely with them. The review took longer than anticipated, and officers are now completing some final documentation on the improvement to biodiversity that will come from the improvements. But I will ask Jonathan to just give an additional bit of detail on that.
Your microphone.
Hopefully you can. Hello. So we have one final document to submit, which there's been probably my lack of experience in doing planning applications, but also Camden's slightly confusing website. But anyway, so the form has been successfully downloaded, and I will be submitting that tomorrow, and I'm hoping that we will then effectively get consent to start works next week. We've got a new window of opportunity starting with a contractor on the 10th of November. So we hope we can keep to that timescale. So one last hurdle with Camden planning, which I hope will be easily jumped over.
Thank you much.
Just following up, it does seem extraordinary it's taken time for something that was obviously fairly uncontroversial, we had thought. And are we going to avoid that problem arising in the future, or is there anything we should? We haven't got the Cabinet Councillor with us. I don't know he's online or not. But it does seem unfortunate that something relatively straightforward should run into that issue. And I think probably Bill knows the second question I had is about the stewards' huts, where I don't know if people are aware, we had objections from our consultation members. Application went in to which they objected, to which we knew nothing. But that, as I understand it, is now in hand. I just want some confirmation that isn't going to get stuck in the planning process as well. Clearly didn't start off in the right way, but Is there anything we need to be picking up with Camden on that? Or is it now on track? I mean, people are aware it's 74. We've got pictures of it. After the event, I have to say, which is unusual. We normally would see it before. Bill may have comments on that as well, but can I just check where we are?
Yeah, of course, Deputy Chairman. So we've reported previously to this committee that we're introducing a new booking system for all swimming activities on the Heath, which will replace the multiple systems that are in place now. The new booking system will have new hardware that needs to be housed securely, and it can't fit in the existing steward's hut. The existing steward's huts are also in-house created, and they're not secure, they're not waterproof, they're not insulated. So we do need new huts for staff and for the equipment. And we've been looking at models based on the existing model at the ladies pond to introduce. Unfortunately, a planning permission was submitted by a member of staff, well-intentioned, but before a final process and decision had been made. It has gotten some objections. So what we're doing now is we've reached out to those who have objected. Some of those objections have been withdrawn or will be withdrawn because we've been able to provide some additional information that ideally would have been submitted with the original application, which does provide a lot of important context on how we'll make sure that the huts are sensitively placed on the Heath. Vegetation is put around them to make sure that they blend in as much as possible. And what we're doing now is engaging with a planning consultant that we usually work with on planning applications to make sure that we both engage with Camden Council appropriately and are in touch with anybody who has made a representation through the process. That is ongoing, but I will provide an update to this committee the next time we meet. And as you mentioned, Deputy Chairman, on page 77, there are pictures of what is being proposed. On the first page, you'll see the huts that are already at the ladies' hut. They are juniper green, which is a common color used for structures on the Heath. And what is being proposed is on page 78. As you can see, it's a very similar make and model. It will be painted juniper green as well, and vegetation and some plantings will be put around it to make sure that it blends in as much as possible. And again, the benefits here are that it's big enough to accommodate the hardware that needs to be put in, as well as digital infrastructure, and it provides a more appropriate working environment for our staff who sit outside all day to check access and grant access to the swimming ponds.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, if there are no further questions on Bill's report, Joe, go to the item 7, the risk management update for Hampstead Heath.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I jumped over. Sorry, Heath Hands. Bill, it's you. Your report. Is there anything you want to add to it orally?
No, Chairman, it is the report of Heath Hands that goes to the consultative committee and to the management committee. But I would just note that we continue to have a very strong and I would say a highly beneficial, mutually beneficial relationship with Heath Hands. As members will know, Heath Hands supported us with 17,500 hours of volunteer work last year on the Heath, which is absolutely critical to us being able to maintain the Heath to the standard we do and to winning those awards. They very much are a critical partner and a partnership that we very much value and want to continue to strengthen.
Thank you, and add my thanks to them for their hard work. Yes.
Sorry, Chairman. Getting used to saying that as well. The information hut, is that going to continue throughout the winter, or is it basically only a summer use where we saw it, people were able to join us on the walk? Clearly, a successful venture, but it was certainly short of space as well for all the things they'd want to do. And obviously, it was the slight question about the name, but is there going to be a change to how it works or an extension of time?
Thank you, Deputy Chairman. The initial use was essentially a pilot to see how it worked, under the operation and management of or stewardship of Heath Hands and to see the impact of it. I think your reflection is probably shared by many that it has been helpful to have an information point on the Heath. I believe it was initially anticipated to work in the warm weather months and then to revisit it, but it is currently working. Heath Hands is been really effective in providing a place of information on the Heath. My understanding is that it will continue to remain operative on the weekends, and I'll report back at the next committee on what a longer term plan may be.
Yeah. it's always seemed more generally desirable that we in an aspiration that we could have something a little bit better for information. I put it as generally as that on the Heath, and it seems always to me, and I know I've had previous discussions that something that we would like to look at potentially in the future, something a bit, but this is a good sort of taster. If you look at Epping Forest, what Epping Forest has got, but I mean that's a conversation for another day. It is a useful. Seemed to me certainly when I was on the walk, it seemed very popular, and that doesn't surprise me. Okay, Joe, risk management report. Get to it. Hampstead.
Thank you, Chair. So the report sets out the risk management processes in place for Hampstead Heath and summarises the contents of the current risk register. Members will note there are 3 red risks on the register, which officers are working to try to reduce. The details are in Appendix 1. I'd also note that the Appendix 1, the risk register, has got a slightly different format now, which is a corporately issued format for the register, just so it's consistent across all risk reports. The details of how risks are being managed are included in that register, and we're happy to take any questions on any specific items.
Yes, John. No.
Can I come up on the point which is mentioned on page 84, work-related stress and the risks you identify there? And I hope note can be taken that of the stress levels at the moment, which are real, and to look particularly be considered when we're looking at the budgets for opening of the new charities regime from April next year. Would you like to comment on that, or anyone else?
That one, Chair, thank you. So absolutely, I think we take obviously the well-being of our staff very important and very seriously. So I think your question is in relation to the charities review. Is that correct, actually? So yes, we are taking into account as part of that. Obviously, there will be further updates to come in terms of the review, but obviously staff welfare is critical within that. Thank you.
Jason, yes.
Thank you, Chair, and just echoing those remarks, I think we'll all be very, very concerned to see the instances of antisocial behaviour increasing, which is obviously leading to greater work-related stress. I think and that's much to be deplored, as well as the use of needles. I think it would be good for us to keep an ongoing monitor of this at future meetings, not just for the annual risk register. I think we all take the safety of our staff on Hampstead Heath as an absolute priority, and we've made that clear on various matters that we've discussed of quite prominent importance at this committee. The other thing was it would be good to have particularly given the deterioration and the decline in condition of assets on the Heath, and perhaps a little bit more detail of that at future meetings as well. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. I mean, it is disappointing and troubling when you see Appendix 1, the antisocial behaviour elements and the notes at the moment. Particularly in, as you say, Jason, needles, is described as a significant increase in drugs and needles found on the West Heath, and also not just there, but the need to provide supplementary security in the Lido. I'm very keen that we also support, which we're doing, the constabulary as well. And we'll come on to that, but that's point both the deputy chair and myself have felt very strongly about, and that we are very keen to reinforce it for obvious reasons, but I do think it's a privilege and an important, not only for staff but also the public in confidence. So we obviously have a way to go at the moment, but obviously a lot of that is external factors that we don't have control over, but we have control on how we meet it. But it is of concern, and it's been a growing issue. Is there anything else on the risk management report, Nirajan? If we move on to, if there isn't, I'd like to move on to operations. Oh, sorry. Will,
it probably is appropriate. So the risk in terms of budget, I know, is slightly a abstract thing. On page 97,
yeah,
the target has been shifted to December 2026 in terms of actually shifting the dial. Is it because it's such a high level risk that that's the way this is dealt with, or is it you've only just got somebody in place, but is the idea you're not going to be raising funds or changing the budget before December of 2026? I just wasn't sure how the target date influences what is being done. Is it something that one worries about, or is it more that it's more a reflection of what's happening? I don't know.
I think it's, I mean, I'll let others speak, but I think it's a reflection of the new post holder coming in, fundraising, and an estimated time before they can have a meaningful impact. I think that's the reason. That's it, my understanding of the notes, but I'll let Bill elaborate.
Thank you, Chairman and Deputy Chairman. A couple considerations here. One is obviously the charity review is occurring and the new grant funding model will come into place on the 1st of April. So that will impact our understanding of our budgets in the short and more medium term. In addition, as you rightly note, we have recently hired in a head of development and fundraising, but fundraising is a marathon, not a sprint. And just because we have somebody in post doesn't mean we'll be able to raise money immediately in large quantities. We are very much going to pick the small hanging fruit where possible, to use a cliche, and we will do as much as we can as quickly as we can. And our new person in post will be preparing a report for the committee to outline the direction of travel and the work that will be done. This will align with some of the other work that's being done across the entire Natural Environment Division and in the center at the Guildhall as the corporation pivots towards leaning into fundraising in a more robust way than it has historically. So the end of 2026 gives us a chance to reflect and see how the grant funding model and having somebody in post for a year, give or take, can impact our budget.
Yeah, and so if you flip over the other page on the appendix, yeah, and I think it's you see the link to the move, as we know, from the current deficit funding model to the grant funding model for 26-27. And I think, if I'm right, others may know, I think this is the first time we've had a bespoke officer for fundraising appointed, certainly in my time. Karina.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a question, obviously great to hear they're coming into role. Great that they're going to be looking at the low hanging fruit. In their remit, is legacy fundraising included, and will that be included in their report? Because there was some work done on that some years ago.
Thank you for the question. Very much so. The remit really is fundraising as broadly as can be defined. And I think members will understand. We want to give them a chance to understand the organization, understand the spaces, align with the other work that is going on, because the corporation very much needs to build its infrastructure and its expertise and its capacity for fundraising. It is not yet leaning into fundraising in a really robust way holistically. So they need to do that, and they will be looking at all available opportunities for fundraising. Legacies has already been discussed as an initial thing, as an opportunity for the future, and will be included in the report. I will make sure that they speak to it.
I mean, there's going to be a culture education, both for ourselves, for our stakeholders, given that, although we have made attempts before, Queen, I remember as well, to establish accounts for charitable fundraising. As I said before, we've never had, as far as I'm aware, a purpose, an officer employed for fundraising purposes, which is unusual, I would hazard a guess, for any other charitable organisation. And that requires both, changes in culture, thought pattern within the organisation, and also with our stakeholders and partners, because we've not been on that journey with them before. So it's something I have to be Sheriff, I did raise a number of times. I think we will have a journey, and we need to start thinking about that as soon as possible to make it as productive as we can. Any other points on that report? So Nirijan, I think draft annual report, financial statements for the year. Have I jumped? Oh, okay, yes. Operational finance progress report. Sorry, I jumped from item 8.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, so the Q1 progress report is projecting £138,000 net expenditure underspend against the budget. Please note I've used the term latest approved budget in the report by mistake. It should now be used as budget going forward.
Sorry, where's that?
In the tables.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The main driver of this positive variance is due to the extra filming and parking income. A Q2 revenue forecast exercise was recently carried out, and it is expected that net expenditure will reduce to £89,000 underspend after the re-evaluation forecast of the parking income, which is now expected to be in line with budget. There are expected to be significant developments in both capital projects this financial year, and the photovoltaic panels are expected to be completed by March of 26. I mentioned in paragraph 23 the newly proposed grant funding model, which clarify is its intended use, but this will be presented for recommendation of approval at the relevant committees in November. Finally, you may have noticed that there's a change in how the income is presented in the report. It's now been presented within brackets and expenditure without brackets. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Wendy.
You mentioned filming. Is this committee entitled to the filming fees?
I don't know, if I'm honest with you.
It doesn't go to central filming. Does it still go? I thought we'd managed to change it so that the filming came to the relevant.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you for the question, and I think it's a question that people ask often. Sorry, Wendy. The bulk of filming fees that are led and delivered and coordinated by officers in the open spaces is retained by the charity. There is some support that comes from the center, and we're in a discussion with them on how that financial arrangement works. We don't have a final conclusion yet, but we're in active conversation with our colleagues.
Yeah, I'm just going to follow on from that and say what we're looking at is a kind of menu of services type approach, where there would be some core services such as, the contract provision, but actually some of the other services would be optional, and that would be like a finder's fee, if you like, or additional support with location kind of planning and management. So that's what we're looking at going forward, and we've got a meeting scheduled with the filming team quite soon to go through that.
I'm glad to hear it. I was out at Burnham Beeches and we went to the site that they were recently filming, and they've been working on exactly that. So I'm very pleased to think that the money should go where it should go.
Just a question on that. Will the charities review impact on that? Because at all, no, this is treated, this won't won't be impacted by the revisiting of the relationship from grant to deficit.
So we're looking at a number of work streams within that project and programme, and one of those work streams will be looking at developing service level agreements and that type of approach with the different kind of service providers within the corporation, so that we're much clearer on what services are being provided, and also kind of monitor provision of those and look at different options where that would perhaps be more financially viable. So it will be considered.
Because it seemed to me that's one of the issues of the change in funding, because there was the issue under the deficit funding arrangement could operate as a discouragement to us raising our own revenue, because next annual budget it was just then taken out and it was a disincentive, and potentially we have opportunities to raise revenue. So I would have expected filming to be one of those things that would be included, that we could sort of eat more of what we earned. I shouldn't talk about. No, we're not going to kill anything. That happens in Epping Forest. That happens in Epping Forest with the John. Yeah.
A point to your point, Chair, which I think is very valuable. Just if you look on the page 133 on expenditure categories, I see we're looking at where there's, let's say, a rough expenditure of 5-6 million, but actually recharge is quite a big percentage of that. So I wonder if under the new model we'll be able to say, actually, for such and such, we don't need to go to the centre. We can get somebody in Kentish Town to do it.
Yes, we are going on to another issue there.
Another issue, but I just want to mark it down as something to look at.
It's a potential, but the reason why I just wanted to raise that on filming as well, because these are the issues where, for understandable reasons, if you're filming, aspects of the Heath or whatever will not be available to the general public. That has certain consequences. So therefore, in terms of balancing things up, it seems to me that this is one where we should be, whether or not we're eating it or killing it or doing whatever, we should be getting more of it. Yes, Alison.
Just to comment, I know we're in public session, but just to comment with regard to this whole area and the experience of the City Bridge Foundation, it's been, it's taken them at least 2 and a bit years, and they're still not through all this service level agreement element of agreeing things. And the other area, and that's not through want of trying or any kind of, purposeful obstruction, it's just timing of things. But the other point is that if we do it by a different route of sort of securing it locally, that has to be done to a certain standard. I mean, I'm not suggesting it won't be done, but it's very easy to sort of somehow change the standard because you think this is okay. But I think obviously we would be setting the right standards because of the people at the core. But it's just important we look at that as well.
No, absolutely, and as I say, it's going to be a long process. So, any other points to make on that report, for which many thanks. I do want to just, I've been reminded to go back to item 7. We do actually have to, it's for decision for our health and safety. If you can just look up this recommendation, we're just to confirm the report that we were looking at. So members are asked to confirm on behalf of the Corporation's trustees that the register that we were looking at to the report satisfactorily sets out the key risks to charity and the appropriate systems are in place, split infinitive, to effectively identify and mitigate risk. Subject to the split infinitive being changed. Can we approve that? Yep, good. We are Hampstead after all. Nirajan, it's, I think, unless I've cocked up again, it's you. It's operational a draft. It's the draft annual report, financial statement.
Yeah.
Edward.
I'm happy for the chairman to introduce it, but have a number of concerns about the draft report on accounts. It is full of mistakes and typos. the balance sheet and the statement of financial activities have the wrong dates on them, both in terms of date of signature and the date. So if you look at page 170 and 171.
Just give me a moment.
The agenda
170. Yeah.
The signatures on the trustee report.
Sorry, I'm just at 170. Just
Yeah.
I was just going to mention that there was an updated report. So the draft report was based as they were at the time. They were being amended. I didn't actually want to produce a draft report for this meeting, but I was told I needed to produce something. So I do have a draft report. We're in the final stages of the audit. So
okay.
We do have another version, which is what I was going to introduce. But
right, but we haven't got it.
No, but I can circulate it. It's not. We're literally in the final stages in the next week or so. So once that's completed, I can circulate it.
But right.
Chair, that's not necessarily helpful.
No. Also, it would have been helpful to notify me and the deputy and officers of that position. That you were intending to put another version of the report, and also to members such as Mr. Lord, who's gone through it.
If there is another version of the report, can I reiterate a point that I've been making in this and other committees for many years, which is where we have the administration details for charities of which the corporation is trustee, and where there is a committee that has responsibility for oversight of the charity, there really should be a list of the names of the members of the committee, which does not appear on page 192, page 44 of the report. You've got the list of the names of the chief executive, the treasurer and the solicitor, and the two directors in the environment department, but you don't list the members of this committee, which actually has the governance responsibility, and that should be included. It has been changed in some other charity reports, because I know that the Gresham committee meeting on Friday is receiving the Gresham charity annual accounts, and the Gresham committee is named in the report and accounts. So can I ask, please, that all of the open spaces charities, the relevant committee is actually set out in the report and accounts?
I believe we've already communicated on this on a prior one, and was it not agreed that there was a certain I don't want to misspeak, but it wasn't then a piece of legal advice that's saying we couldn't put the members on there.
Well,
I could go back.
If it is, it's Duff legal advice, and I'm looking at this city's lister. I'm sure that isn't advice that would have been provided by his department. Because if you look at the accounts of the City Bridge Foundation, they list the members of the board of the City Bridge Foundation. If you look at the accounts that you produce for the Gresham charity, you list the members of the Gresham committee in that. So, therefore there can't be some contradictory legal advice knocking around the place.
So, just before, so I just want to clarify this. Just first, before we get into any further detail, am I right, if the Chamber Department can clarify then, are the same points applicable in terms of the draft annual reports and financial statements, not only for Hampstead Heath, but also when we get on to Highgate Wood and Queen's Park? Are we in the same position for all sets of reports?
For Highgate Wood and Queen's Park as well, yeah.
So right, so Highgate and Queen's Park, and so the position, just so I understand, so what we have in the members pack is not the version, the draft version you would actually like us to approve.
Well, it's not for approval.
For information.
For information.
Consider. Sorry.
And that version won't be ready until until the beginning of November.
Okay.
Chairman, I just wanted to note that there has been quite a lot of capacity issues in Chamberlain's recently, because Simon Owen, who's our head of finance, is unfortunately, off sick at the moment. And again, sort of another member of the team has been off sick. So just for members to be aware that team has been under quite a lot of strain and pressure recently. Obviously, we will take those recommendations and make sure that we follow up with the team so that we can improve the reports going forward next time.
So, okay, so I mean, it is, as I say, it's for information, but obviously there's got to be a balance between it being in a state where members aren't wasting their time, basically looking at something that's going to substantially change. So I think first of all, Edward, you've obviously had experience of this before. Can we just go through, if you've got some, I mean, because there's limited value in going through a report that's if it's got dates and typos and things and all things wrong, so we can't properly understand it.
Chair, if we
can have some headline issues that we can usefully discuss today. I'm not looking to get into the minutiae of typos and things that may be corrected, but if there are issues such as the one you've just raised about, is it legally right that the trustee, the members of this committee should be listed, that's clearly something that needs to be sorted out, frankly. And if there are other points like that, we can raise them. Sorry, yes.
Jenkins, I'm working with you.
Yeah. Can you put your otherwise
Sorry,
the remote people won't hear.
So my name is Marguerite. I'm working as the finance transformation lead with Chamberlain's and Natural Environment.
Sorry, what's your surname, Marguerite?
Jenkins.
Jenkins, thank you.
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
And I've been working on the grant funding model. So we'll sort of see many of you when we do the briefing on the grant funding model on Thursday. But I suspect what's happened with the advice around the naming is that the corporate trustee, City of London, has been put in as the corporate trustee, and that the legal team may have advised that there was no requirement to put all the names of the committee members. I suspect that was the advice, and we can check that again. So that's my interpretation of what's in there for both Hampstead Heath and Highgate.
Edward, do you want to?
Yeah, and it's not particularly helpful advice, because whilst the corporation is the corporate trustee, it acts through its elected members who serve on the committees that provide the governance oversight for its charities. And certainly in terms of given that we're going to go into this fundraising mode, my experience as a trustee of numerous quite substantial grant makers is one of the things that those grant makers look at is who is running the charity, and simply saying the City of London Corporation or the Mayor and Commonalty and Citizens of London is probably not helpful. People want to know who the people are. No, they want to know who the chair is.
No, so just I mean, I think obviously this is a wider debate, not just for this committee. So I don't really useful point, and also the point that Edward makes, just made about the quality of people sitting on the committee. If that's possible, something that the team can take back and report, report back to us, and in the interim report back to myself, the deputy chair, that would be really useful, because I do have in mind, particularly since we are changing our method of financing, and we are going to be perceiving, or we haven't yet had the briefing, but the pre-briefings we've had is to look at us as a bit more of a freestanding charity, and therefore I think there will be, whatever the strict legal position may be, there's also a question of presentation that may need to be looked at on that matter.
May I just say, I think that is absolutely what's happening, and that I would suggest that for the next set of accounts for 25-26 in particular, there's a review of that purpose borne in mind.
Yeah, well, that would seem consistent with our current direction of travel, which is, emerging direction of travel. So I'm then looking as to, I mean, this is for information purposes. We get the next version back in December. Are there any other headline? I just want to keep it to headline points at the moment, unless anyone has anything specifics. So we will take that for information, but hopefully the team will note the comments, and if there are issues with it and say no, we can't. Can I just get some notice before, if there are issues? That would be helpful. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah. So we leave Hampstead Heath for the moment. On to Highgate Wood and Queen's Park. And Bill, your report. Is there anything you want to add orally, or otherwise I'm not going to tender you for cross-examination, but for questions. Sure. No, I'll keep the deputy chair out at the moment. Anything you'd like to add? I mean, you mentioned.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the committee have any questions? We are doing Highgate Wood first and then Queen's Park, which is 11. Deputy Chair has a question.
Yeah, saying Highgate Wood, the obviously the kiln project has been running pretty well with its own budget, which has been very successful to date. But there was a big issue about how they're going to display the kiln and how they're going to provide the information. And it appears that they seized slightly run out of impetus, or the rather grand project that had originally been proposed for the hut doesn't seem to, obviously hasn't come forward as a specific. Is it that there is the ability for them to present the results within their budget, or have we now got a funding issue ourselves, and even our own hut can't provide it? I just wasn't sure what happens next.
Thank you, Deputy Chairman. I'll ask Jonathan or Andrew to come in with additional detail if I don't answer your question fully. There is insufficient funding to realize the aspiration of a rebuilt or significantly renovated info hut to house both the newly rebuilt Roman kiln and the existing ecological and wildlife information that's within the hut. The project was funded primarily through the National Library Heritage Fund, or solely through the National Library Heritage Fund, and we had hoped to use some existing cyclical work program funding from the surveyors as well. But the multiple quotes that have been received both through the city surveyors and through officers' own work have been well in excess of the amount of funding that we have. What we do need to do as a urgent matter is to repair the roof to the existing structure, because it is in significant disrepair. So we do need to do that to make sure that the structure remains sound and that the Roman kiln remains protected. But to directly answer your question, we do have a funding issue. It is a shortfall, and that's where we're at. We will remain compliant with the terms of the grant, but our larger aspiration, as I understand it, it's being led by the heritage team, but as I understand it, but the aspiration of a more grand structure, unfortunately, we don't have a way to realize it at the moment.
Awesome.
Sorry, it's a bit selfish really, but I've actually never had a visit to Highgate Wood as a member of the committee, and I don't know whether that could be arranged, not for me personally, but whether, within the next year there could be a visit that we had, or if not, send me on my way with the map, and that's happy with that.
We've all been going and just not telling you. No, yeah, I think that's it's a good idea. I mean, presumably this is another thing potential we'd like to have to be added to our new fundraisers project list, and how to attract external funding. Any other points on Highgate Wood before we go to Queen's Park? Queen's Park, Bill?
Again, Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions Queen's Park. The deputy chair.
Well, unsurprisingly, it's the splash park.
Yeah.
In a way, it seems like a great good news story, but I know it's a lot of work to get it over the line. And I just wondered what the update was on the application, on the funding, and where we might be looking at any sort of actual start of the project.
Thank you, Chairman. The fundraising campaign has begun. We do have an update. I'll ask Charlotte to share that.
Thanks, Bill. So the public fundraising campaign was launched in August, September for the Queen's Park Book Festival. To date, we've received, literally as of 15:02, we've received £12,101. I have also been working with Flannery Equipment, who offered their services to put together an HS2 bid application. That is more or less complete, with the intention of submitting it by the end of this week. There is on average 6-week turnaround. It has to go to a panel. I will be asked to meet with the panel and answer any questions about the planned project. We have applied for the Community and Environment Fund bid, which allows bids up to £100,000. I have submitted details for the full 100,000. We don't know yet whether we will be successful for full, part, or any of the funds. So whilst we are doing that, we are also doing the local fundraising campaign. Posters have been put up in the park with the QR code so people can donate online. And we have also been in touch with local businesses. And we have also done an extensive postings on Instagram and social media to raise awareness and to direct people to our local fundraising campaign.
Can I just follow up, because I know it's good that, and since we were able to make some use of Queen's Park Day, but one thing we didn't have in terms of a fundraising campaign was any target for public funding, because I think it was partly cart before horse. Until we know what this funding application may bring, we don't know what the shortfall is, or I suppose is that mean in 6 weeks' time we can then launch it more properly or focus it a bit better? And then if that's the case, how long do people have to wait before we can start sort of breaking the ground and putting it in place?
Deputy Chair, so we have been obviously working hard on that, and we have actually since put the target of £100,000 on all our social media posts. We are simultaneously applying for the grant fund, because we don't again know whether we will get all of the funds we are applying for. Simultaneously, I have now visited 2 splash pads within the Greater London area to sort of gain some input from existing suppliers and landowners to understand the operating costs and understand a bit about the day-to-day maintenance required. The money we have requested will be for the actual installation of the splash pad. Anything above and beyond means that we can actually be more creative with the above ground sprays, and it also means that it will contribute to the ongoing cost of maintaining that facility, because the utility bills are perhaps higher than I originally foreseen, and that has come about since visits to other splash pads.
I know I'm reluctant to put a timescale on it, but I mean, people obviously are interested not only in the funding, but then when it might actually happen. One thing I understand is we still have to go through our own gateway process, so we will be partly responsible for how long that takes, or those responsible for the gateway process. So I suppose, can we come back to this quite soon if we know, I suppose, we know a bit more in 6 weeks?
I think we will know more by the end of the year, because there are also plans within, for example, Cupara's got a Christmas Carol event, and they are using that as an opportunity to raise more local funds. Again, it meets on average every 6 weeks, the panel. So it may be that when I submit it, the next panel won't be for another 6 weeks, or it could be for 2 months. the time is dependent on when they actually receive applications. I also have been told it has to go through the gateway process, so that also needs to simultaneously happen as part of a project because it will be over £100,000. As part of that, we will also need to go through the procurement process and do a full tender application. I have investigated this further, and I have been informed that the suppliers that I am in touch with need a 12 to 16 week lead-in time in order to build. I have made it very clear until we have got the full costed monies in available, we cannot start that process both with procurement, with the gateway process, and or with contacting suppliers.
Well, thank you.
Okay, a wider issue for us to consider, and I think once we've got our fundraiser in place, but also like us to see if we can get voluntary support. We've not been good at tapping into community infrastructure levy support historically because we just haven't had officer resources to do it. But the various local authorities will be relying on the provision of our open space to justify additional housing development in the area from time to time. And ordinarily, in the most case, that open space is operated or owned by the local authority itself. So it then often ensures that it does get that additional funding, both for the Heath, the woods, and also the park. We haven't been able to do that hitherto, and that's something I think we'd like to drive forward. Anyone who knows a volunteer planner who'd be happy, that would please put the signals out. It's a worthwhile task because we may have to make representations on, community infrastructure levy plans when they're coming through, what to be included, and as well as individual applications. They're time consuming and require specialist support. But something like this splash pool would conceivably be within it, and it's a piece of leisure infrastructure. Okay, any other questions on that? That's a wider point for all three open spaces.
Chairman.
Yeah.
I realized that I forgot to mention one thing in my Heath report. If I could mention it now. Members, I think were briefed previously that there was previously a funding shortfall for repairing and replacing water fountains on Hampstead Heath. The City Surveyor's Department has been able to identify appropriate funds to undertake that project, which of course is a very welcome development. I'm also very pleased to note that a member of the Heath and Hampstead Society has very generously agreed to fund one or two of the fountains themselves as well. And I'm just noting to the committee that similar as we've done with other projects, what we would do is have an appropriately sized plaque with appropriate language to acknowledge this very generous donation on the infrastructure that's installed. I failed to put it in my report, and that is my omission, but I wanted to make the committee aware.
Thank you. Jason, yes.
Chair, if the donation hasn't been made anonymously, are we able to say who the person is and record our thanks in the minutes?
I'd rather give you the names at the next meeting if possible. Thank you. Well, we hope we've got another donor actually in the pipeline, so I will be in touch.
Excellent. Well, can we convey our provisional thanks at the moment without the names? Thank you very much to those people. If we've no further questions on that, Joe, risk management update for decision. So and it's 225 to 272 on Highgate, Wood and Queen's Park together. Is there anything you'd like to supplement?
I think the report takes the same format as the Hampstead Heath report. The three highest risks are the same risks as they are for Hampstead Heath, so members will note those with minor differences because of the different sites and the charity. But otherwise, everything is set out in Appendix 1 and summarised in the cover report. We can take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Jason,
sorry. I'm sorry, I'm aware of the increase in antisocial behaviour in Hampstead Heath.
Yeah, it's just
in Highgate Wood as well.
To a lesser degree, to be sure, but we are seeing this across all of the open spaces. And indeed, what we're hearing from our other colleagues across London is that there's a general increase in antisocial behavior everywhere. What we want to do is make sure we're on top of it, we're acting proactively. And if we're having, if we're learning things on the Heath and other open spaces, that we're applying them proactively, where appropriate, we're sensitive, we're well thought out in other spaces to ensure that we maintain safe spaces in our entire portfolio at North London.
But just picking up on Jason's part, where on the West Heath there's been identified significant increase in drugs and needles. I mean, I may have missed it, but I don't see that in the report for certainly for Highgate Wood and also Queen's Park. I mean, there are. I mean, we have got. I mean, we recognise we've got an issue on the West Heath that needs to be managed. I suppose Jason's point is, yes, there may be overall intolerance being shown, and interesting Radio 4 programme on it very recently. But is there specifically the same thing that we need to be, actively focused on?
But you just be good at a few more details, Chair.
Yeah.
Different challenges, but we are seeing increases in members of the public being difficult when we're trying to lock up, challenging officers, not putting dogs on leash, following basic demands of officers. This is increasing across the board. If I'll review the entry and the risk report. If we need to be more nuanced and more detailed, we'll update it for the next report.
Yeah, I think it would be useful, Bill, if we had some, specific examples are always quite good for members to get the mind round. And if it is abusive people when you're trying to lock up, then it's abusive people when you're trying to lock up. It's people doing drug deals or whatever. Then that's it's quite useful to get a nature and details of the nature of it, because it could be increase in antisocial behaviour, but of a different type. So, yep. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that point.
I mean, sorry, Chair. I'll give you an example. Queen's Wood, which is across the road from Hampstead Heath. You go in there late at night at your risk, because there's lots of young children on bikes that are being very clearly antisocial and doing goodness knows what. It would, for the sake of the local community, I think it's important that we're transparent in public session about exactly what kind of antisocial behaviour is happening in Highgate Wood.
I think I think that's right, and I think from the I think Bill, next meeting we'll have something more precise. I think it's important also because, as I say, I've mentioned the constabulary, which covers not just the Heath, but when we're looking at how we address different types of antisocial behaviour, we need to know what it is when considering how we address it. So I'm completely with you.
Yeah, well, especially as I gather the constabulary only go to Highgate Wood and Queen's Park when called to do so, and it's not. It's not that far away, but it's not that close either. So
exactly. Karina.
Chairman, thank you. Yes, I agree. I think as we are in public, some further examples just for understanding would be helpful at this point. Yeah. But you mentioned the constabulary, and when do we plan to discuss that? I didn't see it on the agenda, but is that a topic we're covering today?
We can update on the current situation briefly with the constabulary under any other business, and yeah, we can do that. I'm just wondering whether we have an open or closed session. I think we can have some in open, and then if there's any other more difficult issues, I think it's important that we're transparent about the crime issues or antisocial issues, because it's important then when we come on to consider how we fund various things. I've used the constabulary, but also it's our other staff, how they're protected, and how we do and how we use our resources. We have debates where we raise money in certain areas. People say, oh, therefore you shouldn't be charging. But then there are other aspects we can't charge for. But I think most, such as security, which you don't charge people to be protected directly, but nonetheless we would want to ensure it's one of our responsibilities to try and make the Heath a safe place. So I'm fully in accord with us being as transparent as possible about challenges we face, and so when we come on to then see how we fund various issues, including how we're going to meet them. So yeah, I don't know, Bill, are you happy to just say a few things about just in open session about our the constabulary position as it currently stands?
Yeah, of course. Jason, just to answer your question about ASB, we are not seeing significant proliferation of drug use or theft like we have in other spaces. At Highgate Wood, it is more related to people refusing to follow clear direction from officers. It's just bad behavior. And we'll itemize it and we'll refine the report to make sure that it's more nuanced for each site. Thank you for the note. Karina, related to your question about the constabulary, we are setting up interviews now for 4 additional constables, which will be a very welcome addition to officers and to members of the visitors to the Heath. We got a strong response to the posting, so we're hopeful that the next time we come to committee, we'll be sharing an update on the start date for new constables. And just to clarify, you're right that the constabulary is not big enough to do all-day patrols in Highgate Wood and Queen's Park. They do regular patrols in Highgate Wood. It is less frequent than across Hampstead Heath. That's a function of just the relative size. But they are reactive in some spaces more than, of course, we want to be. The 4 constables will help. And we do have a line in our business plan that in a year's time, after the constabulary is at this new post-Tom full capacity, we will review it and see what the experience has been.
So for decision, can we adopt, please, the recommendations and accept the risk subject? Obviously, we will get further reporting coming back, but can we just accept the risk assessment as given as is? Yeah. And so that's item 12. We've got the Nirajan and Chambers Department. We have the operational finance progress report, Highgate and Queen's Park, and obviously we've had pre-discussion with some issues before. So as I clarified, those that are general, I don't think we need to canvass again. Are there any other, it's for information, are there any other separate points that haven't been canvassed when we looked at Hampstead? I see people shaking their heads, and unless you want to add anything particularly at this moment.
Just to say that we've done a Q2 revenue forecast exercise since, so the 6k underspend reported in the Q1 reports has now increased to a 19k underspend driven by payroll adjustments and a 5k underspend on premise expenditure.
Okay, and that will be updated when we get the Q2 version. Yeah. And we can skip then, I hope, because pretty quickly to item 14, which is the draft annual report, financial statements for the year ending 2025 for Highgate Wood and Queen's Park. Again, the general points made in respect of Hampstead Heath carry over without necessarily said. Any additional points members want to make? Anything you'd like to, Nirajan, add? No, thank you very much. Okay, that's item 14. 15, update about Hampstead Heath, Highgate, Queen's Park, additional meetings. Calendar invitations have been sent out for the additional Hampstead Heath, Highgate Wood and Queen's Park committee meeting on Monday the 8th of December. There'll be an additional Hampstead Heath consultative committee meeting on Monday the 17th of November. So hopefully those have been sent out to the relevant parties. Yeah. Okay. Wendy, you can just check that things are getting. I'm anxious that things get through, but we can deal with those outside of the meeting. Number 16, questions on matters relating to the work of the committee in open sessions. Does anyone have any? I'm looking to the remote people. No. Any other business? Deputy Chair.
When I mentioned the point about the venue, I realised it was something specifically raised in the minutes of the Consultation Committee. So they do need an answer. And so I know you've said you can take it away, but it's clearly something that it is canvassed by them. And I'm sorry it wasn't picked up and responded to, but it obviously needs further thought.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. Any other business that the chairman considers urgent? None. We're then going to go into can we go into the non-public agenda, please?
Thank you, Chair. Do members agree to exclude the public?
Well, we've got a motion. You see the motion as for decision. Do we agree to exclude members of the public?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please wait. I'll just stop the live stream and recording.
If anyone wants to grab anything, as green.